Oh my god, guys, you hear the news, dude. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, right? The biggest MMA announcement we've had in quite some time, and man, Gina Carano could still get it absolutely any day of the fucking week, if she was so lucky, that is. But wow, man, it's about time we get a decent announcement that I actually kind of somewhat give a shit about, but also not whatsoever. Like, I just don't care. I feel like this fight is about 10 years too late. You could even push that to like 15 years too late. I can't even remember the last time I saw Gina Carano actually compete in MMA. And Ronda Rousey just doesn't interest me in general, but of course she's one of the greatest female fighters of all time. I know the bar for that is quite low, but Ronda Rousey is up there, somehow, some way, she is up there. And Gina Carano is kind of a pioneer of WMMA, so she does deserve some respect for that. And also she stood up to Disney and shit like that, if I remember correctly, so she gets extra respect points for that, but it doesn't make me want to watch this fight anymore, you know what I'm saying? But I did quickly want to touch base with you all about why I haven't been uploading that much recently. I kind of feel bad about it. I feel like I'm like your father going to get milk, leaving for a couple of years, returning, giving you hope, and then leaving again for milk. You know what I mean? I feel like I've just been repeating that process, and it's been quite abusive at this point. So I wanted to apologize for that. If you care to watch my uploads or whatever, or if you've been wondering what's up with me, then this is my little update here. I just haven't really given much of a shit about the recent news cycle with MMA, and I haven't really been pushed to even speak about it in general. I just haven't really had much interest in it recently. I was thinking about making a big comeback with a video on the White House card, but man, oh man, let me know in the comments, man. I wanted to bring this up because I want to get your feelings in the comments about the White House card. With the recent discoveries with the Epstein files and all that shit, how do you feel about a card taking place at the White House glorifying these people who are actively covering up the situation, right? I want to know your thoughts on that, because it's pretty much been revealed to us, right, for anyone who didn't have eyes to see beforehand, because the evidence was always there, right? However, if you were doubtful about it before, if you've read through those files, how do you feel about glorifying the people who are extremely obviously covering up one of the biggest scandals we've ever lived through? Probably the biggest scandal that I've lived through personally. And it's not a political issue either, right? It's not about left versus right, Republican, Democrat. It's clear that it's the ruling class. And if you're one of these NPCs who's predisposed to instantly point to the other side to say, oh, see, it's the Democrats or it's Republicans, you're part of the fucking problem. It's the ruling class. It's the people who rule over us, who are in the same clubs, who have the same shared goal, who create the laws which hold us to a certain standard, who are victimizing our children. And there could not be a more pressing issue than that, in my opinion. So I wanted to touch base on that real quick, give you guys my watered down thoughts. If you want to hear more thoughts, more extensive thoughts on that, then if you guys would like, I will post a video tomorrow explaining exactly why I don't give a singular fuck about the White House card. But let me know in the comments what you think. If you care to hear more thoughts on that from me, I will do that for you guys. But how are we feeling about this main event? How are we feeling about this, man? I'm very undecided, because it is somewhat exciting, I guess, right? If it was happening within the UFC, I guess it'd be more exciting for whatever reason, but the fact that it's happening under MVP and Netflix, I just feel like it's just bound to be some kind of a clown show regardless of how it goes. And also, like neither of these two ladies have fought in so long, and both of them suffered some pretty bad losses towards the end of their career, so I'm not even sure how they'll be able to get into this fight mentally, and I'm honestly doubtful that it'll even go through in the end. I doubt that this fight even takes place in the end. I feel like there will be some kind of a pullout, although I hope not. But the most intriguing part of this fight for me is just watching Ronda Rousey perform after so long. Will she vindicate herself? Will she go in there and actually show decent striking for once? Because man, oh man, whenever I think about Ronda Rousey, I'm instantly met with memories of Edmund Taverdian, if that was his name, right? Just hyping the shit out of Ronda Rousey striking, talking about how she could go in there and beat Floyd Mayweather and all this shit, and people like Joe Rogan were retarded enough to buy into it. Like, the amount of hype surrounding Ronda Rousey may actually be the most overhyped athlete in general in history.
They asked Joe Rogan, what do you think would happen if Ronda Rousey fought Floyd Mayweather? And Joe Rogan said, depends on where the fight was. So they asked me the same question. And I said, in a street fight or in an MMA fight, not only would she beat him, she would hurt him badly. Okay? That's what I said. Ronda will kick your feet out from under you and come down. She walks at what? 160? Okay, what? 155, 140? I don't know. What do you walk at?
148 this morning, Dana. Jeez.
Floyd Mayweather is this tall. He weighs 135 pounds. She will hurt him badly.
Come on, people. The most overhyped athlete of all time. Have we ever heard of any conversation about this? Ronda Rousey going out there and beating the greatest boxer of all time. I know they're not talking about it taking place in boxing, but just like even trying to make the argument that she could beat Floyd Mayweather in a fight is just insane to me. It's just insane. I don't care about judo and jiu-jitsu, whatever. No. There's estrogen, there's testosterone, there's male bone density, there's female bone density. And even though it comes across as a marketing scheme, right, just to push Ronda Rousey, it really did get to the point where people started to believe this nonsense, right? People really did start to believe this shit. You had Joe Rogan treating her like she was like Jesus Christ himself on his podcast.
When you walked around the cage after you knocked her out, it was one of, like, I've seen guys win before. I've seen women win before. I've seen people win before. But I never saw anybody soak it all in the way you did when you walked around. When she face planted, you said, "Don't cry," and then you walked around like you strutted around the octagon. You like strutted and looked around at all those people. You took it all in. You looked around. I was like, wow, this is a crazy moment.
I never did. That was the first time
And you know, and knowing you as long as I've had, and having daughters, and it was so emotional for me. That was the closest I've ever come to crying. While I might cry now when I was interviewing somebody. It's because it was so intense, and it was also like I really knew that I was like seeing history. It's like it's hard. I know it's hard for you to probably talk about it because you're living it right now, but like you're in the middle of history.
Man, all this hype was actually the biggest enemy of Ronda Rousey. Watching it all back, it's no wonder that her ego became so fucking inflated. There's no question about why that took place, because of people like Joe Rogan, because of Dana White. These people were literally making it seem like she was a once-in-a-lifetime athlete and human being, which obviously she wasn't, right? All it took, I mean, obviously this is hindsight speaking now, but all it took were female fighters developing some decent striking, and then suddenly she wasn't shit anymore, right? And of course, what she did beforehand was great at the time. And as I said, this is all hindsight, right? Hindsight bias. The level of opponent that she was going up against in her early UFC career was so obvious, right? That they had no business even being in there with her, even in a UFC cage to begin with, right? The level of WMMA at that time was just so damn low. So it's a shame that her career ended up turning out like that. I honestly do kind of feel bad for her in a way, because she never asked for that hype. She got the hype. And that level of hype is never good for an athlete. It just really never turns out as good as the hype leads you to believe it will. And then once they don't live up to the hype, right, they were never good. They were always a fraud, right? That's just always how it turns out to be when it comes to the MMA fan base, right? Extremely fickle fan base. The second that you slip up a single time, you're done. And you never were. So I can see why she feels a little bit bitter towards the UFC and the UFC fan base, but it was up to herself and the people surrounding her to reel her in a little bit as well. And she didn't do herself any favors with some of her outbursts and the way that her ego really showed itself in public. It was a bad look at the end of the day. So she has herself to blame for buying into her own hype, right? And has also done herself no favors with gaining back fanfare recently either.
Dad, what's it feel like being a prodigy? I mean, I know what it's like as a comic, but I'm being dead serious. There's times where I feel like I'm not even joking. I'm not a prodigy, but I remember learning very quickly and seeing things I was watching people do, and I was like, well, I'll never make that mistake. Like I was like, wow, it was so clear mistakes people were making for me,
right?
That I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay, side tangent. I know this is an MMA channel, but when the fuck, like, when did comedians become so stuck up and so gay? Right? Am I wrong for saying that comedians just became so gay in recent years with like the Rogan sphere and all that shit? They just become a bunch of pretentious fucking weirdos, dude. They're just pretentious weirdos, all of them. I cannot watch a comedian perform anymore without looking at them as just such phony fucking weirdos, right? You benefit off of society being incredibly dumbed down. You take your shirt off and you are fat. That's your entire gimmick. And the fact that people actually find you funny says a lot more about society than it says about your ability as a comedian. Bert Kreischer is a dog shit hack comedian, industry plant weirdo. And I just had to say that before we move on to more about the topic at hand.
Chuck Liddell, when he's on top, oh my God, he's the best. The second that he loses, oh, Chuck Liddell ain't shit. He never was shit. You know, and then Rampage Jackson, oh my God, he's the next Mike Tyson. He's so great. Second he loses, oh, Rampage ain't shit. He never was shit.
Yeah.
GSP, oh, he loses, he's not shit. He never was shit. Anderson Silva, oh my God, he's like he was like almost a mythical creature for a while.
Yeah.
He was like this ninja, and he would hypnotize everyone in front of him. And second he loses, oh, Anderson ain't shit. He never was shit. Fedor Emelianenko, great, one of the greatest ever. Second he loses, oh, Fedor ain't shit. He never was shit. And I think the only reason that why MMA fans have their lips so firmly planted at the base of Khabib's cock is because he retired before he reached his limit.
And see, there actually is a lot of truth behind what Ronda Rousey is saying here. I just think it's the fact that it's coming out of her mouth. She's the wrong messenger. Like, at the end of the day, you can't really compare her, maybe relative to WMMA, but even then, you really cannot compare what she did. Because she got in, she was kind of ahead of the game, right? Being a one-trick pony at that time in WMMA was like having Hoist Gracie in the UFC during its inception era. Like, when everyone was just a one-trick pony and nobody really knew how to deal with jiu-jitsu. That's kind of how it was with WMMA. No one knew how to deal with the judo throws and the armbar, right? The fact that she was able to pull it off over and over and over again was a testament to that. It's not like Ronda Rousey was doing anything particularly advanced in there. You know what I mean? So her being fraud checked was a lot more due to the level of WMMA catching up to her and surpassing her at quite a rapid rate, in all honesty. But with the other champions, yeah, I know exactly what she's saying. The fan base, you can see these days, everyone trying to make their GOAT list after every card. Everyone is just clawing to have fighters become the new GOAT. It's like, just pump the fucking brakes, wait until their careers are all said and done. Then we can start having these GOAT conversations. So I kind of do understand what Ronda Rousey is saying there, especially being an MMA YouTuber and constantly seeing these new GOAT lists pop up after every single fucking card that ever takes place. So I get where she's coming from here. But with the Khabib point, you know, he retired after his father's passing, his like tragic passing, and they were extremely close. So yeah, man, I can't really take away from Khabib's retirement whatsoever. Yeah, did he have more to give? Sure. But yeah, I feel like just because of circumstances, we should show Khabib some grace when it comes to his retirement. You know what I'm saying? But Ronda is really making it seem like she believes that she only started getting hate once she lost, which was not the case. It was the fact that you started to lose while being the most arrogant motherfucker of all time. It was your attitude, it was your arrogance that led to you getting hate, right? Humble fighters who eventually lose don't really get hated on to that large of a degree, really, when it comes down to it. Obviously, if you spend too much time on the internet, you'll find any group of people hating on anybody, really. So, like, based on your perspective there, you may agree or disagree. However, Ronda's arrogance made her extremely easy to root against at that time.
You know, I was just talking to Joe on the walk over, and all it takes is a text going, "How long for me to train to beat Ronda?" That'll never happen.
He wouldn't know. He's not an expert. He's a fan with an audience.
That's interesting. Is that how you feel about you?
Never fought.
He fought Taekwondo, right?
Never fought. That's not fighting. It's not fighting.
Well,
Ronda Rousey here kind of displays a similar mentality to like that of the like quote unquote tough guy MMA fans. Ones who are like, you wouldn't say that to their face, or you've never even fought, so you don't get to have an opinion on fighting. Which is just not how it works. Any of us can have an opinion on something, whether we've competed in said thing or not, and we can have just as informed opinions as those who have competed, right? Those who have competed, generally speaking, from what I've seen, are actually quite terrible fucking analysts. So I don't listen. The point is completely moot. Although I understand the logic coming from a fighter, right? If I was a fighter, maybe I would think the same way. Or maybe if I have competed at a professional level, maybe I would have a similar mentality. But it is crazy how she goes after Joe, and Joe is like her biggest defender, right? When people were talking about how overhyped she was, Joe used to defend this woman. So I'm actually very surprised for her to go after Joe like that. It seems pretty uncalled for. However, I'm not too sure about their interactions that have taken place behind the scenes. Maybe Joe Rogan has said disrespectful things about her, but from what I've seen, like, publicly on his podcast, he hasn't really gone too far when it comes to calling her a fraud or anything like that. I feel like Joe Rogan has always, shown her quite a bit of grace, but saying that he overhyped her, right, is just an objective fact, right? But how about that nervous laugh from Bert Kreischer, right? As soon as Ronda Rousey starts, making some disparaging comments about his daddy, the dude just doesn't know how to react. And yeah, man, it's pretty telling, dude. Fucking Joe Rogan is the gatekeeper of comedy. It's quite ridiculous considering he's not funny in the slightest, but that's besides the point anyway. But that is also conclude my thoughts on this fight between Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. I know I didn't really speak too much about my prediction on the fight, but it did give me the opportunity to just share some general opinions on Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey. I don't really care about how this fight will turn out. Whoever wins, I don't really care. Obviously, I would prefer to see Gina Carano in a dominant position. That would be quite aesthetically pleasing, if you know what I'm saying. So Gina Carano hopefully gets the win here, although I just don't really give a shit, and both ladies are way past it at this point, so this could turn out to be just a complete dog shit fight. But however it goes, man, I don't really care. Let me know in the comment section below whether you agree, whether you disagree, what your thoughts are on this fight, whatever your thoughts are surrounding anything I spoke about in this video. Just let me know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.